Welcome back to the Strength and Speed Podcast. I'm your host, Strength and Speed owner and Mud Gear Battle Alliance Pro, Evan Preparis. I've got two familiar faces / voices on the line with me. Let's bring one of them on, then we'll introduce our sponsors, then we'll bring the other on. So starting off, I have Doug Snyder, one of my Mud Gear Battle Alliance Pro teammates, former Conquer the Gauntlet Pro, and 8-time Conquer the Gauntlet Masters podium finisher. Doug, welcome.
Welcome. Thank you.
All right. So this episode is brought to you by Race Ready Obstacles. Race Ready Obstacles makes a lot of the grips that you've been seeing on Battle of the Lines, the grips that you've been seeing on OCR World Championships, and the grips you've been seeing on Indian Mud Run this past weekend. So great products. I've got them hanging in my rig in my garage. Love them. Doug, what are some of your thoughts on Race Ready Obstacles?
They're very innovative, super heavy duty, and I definitely enjoy using them at home.
Yeah, same. So I always kind of viewed them as so their price point's a little bit lower than some of the other brands. So I always viewed them, I was like, oh, well, they're a cheaper company. And when the first set of grips I ordered from them that showed up, I was like, damn, these are so nice. Like they feel so much nicer when you get like a brand new fresh pair than when you're like sweaty and I'm going through a rig and kind of like not really paying attention. So
yeah.
And so head over to Race Ready Obstacles. Their two owners, husband and wife, are both awesome. So, local brand or kind of a smaller brand, but really high quality stuff. And like I said, it's at a lower price point. So you're going to really enjoy it. All right, let's bring on our other guest, former Conquer the Gauntlet Pro and second place finisher at OCR World Championships in her age group this past year, plus a whole string of other podiums that I'm not going to run through because we'll be here all night. Lisa Nondorf. Lisa, welcome back.
Thanks, guys. I'm happy to be back.
And also the only mermaid I've ever had on the show. If you're confused about that, you can go back and listen to her episodes.
I have to go back to old footage.
I think that's the Jenny Overstreet and you episode, if that sounds correct. And
yeah, I think it is.
And then also my only professional high diver that I know.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, we actually got to see some Red Bull high diving this like a week ago.
Cool. Yeah, cool. We're going to get to that. Your trip looked awesome, and I'm super jealous because you were going to Greece and Europe and some other parts that looked like a lot of fun. So
yeah,
also,
I'm
going to give you a quick shout out, plug to my book on endurance. So Lisa's in there. She's got a quote about, kind of, I think it's overcoming injury or fear. I can't remember what it is. I haven't read my own book in a couple of months.
Yeah.
So
it could be either.
So check out On Endurance. Again, that's not just for OCR endurance. It's for anyone looking to improve in endurance sports. So pass it around. It's my attempt at spreading the OCR world to the non-OCR world, kind of highlighting some of the athletes that are in there, but also taking lessons that are applicable across the entire endurance sports world. So check that out. So this episode, we're going to primarily be talking about the European OCR Championships that Doug and Lisa both went to. And we're also going to talk a little bit at the end about NNL Worlds, so National Ninja League Worlds Championships that both of them went to. And then also I want to talk a little bit about a local race I did. Just wanted to give them a quick shout out. So Junction City Athletic Center, Filthy Monkey Race. So we'll talk about that at the very, very end.
That's the best name ever.
It's a 5th annual. They've been going for a while.
That's amazing. I just won the medal. A Filthy Monkey medal.
Did they give? No, I don't think we got medals this year, but we did get age group awards. They did like these like octagonal kind of plaques. So
that's so awesome.
All right, let's jump into European OCR Championships. So Doug, let's start off with you. Like, explain what this is and if it's associated with the OCR World Championships that we know.
Okay. It is not associated. It's a totally different organization. The organizer for this event was Federazione Italiana OCR, which is the Italian Federation of OCR, and they're very well organized there. I've learned as of a couple years ago, they had 48,000 members, and as of a couple years ago, they had over 30 professional quality OCRs a year in Italy. And it's also partnered with the European Obstacle Sports Federation, which is, I guess that's a sub part of the World OCR organization, which represents like 80 countries.
That's the one run by Ian Adamson, correct?
It is, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah. If Lisa says so, then yes.
Okay. But I want to say the European OCR World Championships was around before World OCR. Is that correct?
I believe so. The branding is very much the same. So looking at logoing and things like that, it's very similar to World OCR, but there is no there's no commentation of the two being related at all.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And this was a race a couple years ago where like they had a atrocious completion rate, correct? The one where like John Albin I think showed up and I think lost his band. Yeah.
Yeah. They don't seem to worry too much about what the completion rate is.
Nope. Not at all.
But I think that's something that drew us to it, was that it was kind of branded as one of the hardest races in the world, and it brought together a lot of really hard elements from other European and other parts of the world race companies.
So where it was similar to OCR Worlds in North American would be they brought multiple race series from Europe all together and put all their obstacles in.
That's cool.
So it has that same inclusiveness mentality of this obstacle is coming from this race series, this obstacle is coming from this race series, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm.
Right. I'm not sure that the championship race itself actually had any obstacles that were just what they put in. Everything had a brand from something else on it.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Well, I mean, that sounds like a cool event. It sounds like brands are working together to put on a bigger event, which is, I think, is a really good thing. And I think we're seeing a little bit of that in the U.S. with like Battle of the Lions going out to Indian Mud Run. And then like you have brands like in the Midwest, like Frontline, Abominable Snow Race, Highlander Assault, a little bit of Battle of the Lions, Race Ready Obstacles. There's not really a race brand, but kind of working together and, having like a kind of like a professional crew setting things up. So that's cool.
Right.
Lisa, let's start off with what country / city was it in?
It was in northern Italy. Doug, do you remember what city? Was it Terezno? Or is that so it was in the Alps. So last year I got done with Worlds and said I won't be running on a ski slope ever again. So I decided that the Alps were a better option. Don't ever say never. That's all I'm going to say. So it was in the Italian Alps. So of Italy. All right, it was like amazing views, like ridiculous. And I only ran the short course. So I ran they call it a 4K. And then Doug ran both. He ran the long because I said I'm not running up an Alp mountain, and that's what he had to do.
Lisa so was scared
about that. Yeah, that's why I said he can talk about that.
So tell me how many did they have a team event too, or it was the 4K and what was the other one, 15K?
They had identical events to what you see at Worlds and at North American. So they had the short course on Friday and then the standard race on Saturday and then team event on Sunday. But they also had and we both did the 100 meter.
Oh, interesting.
And they had a 100 meter as well.
And we did three opportunities at that.
Yeah. So you could buy either 1 run, 3 runs, that kind of thing into that course. And that event sold out. So you couldn't, once you got on site, you couldn't buy additional runs.
Gotcha. So let's start at the shortest distance, 100 meter. How did they do there? I know like we had some trouble at Worlds last year where it turned into like almost a long jump contest as people were skipping everything and kind of hitting the bell. How did their 100 meter look like? Was it longer rigs? Was it super technical obstacles, et cetera?
It wasn't highly technical obstacles. It was definitely longer rigs. But the massive difference was the rules. Their rules were firmly strict, and there was no getting around them. So even there was like a cargo net you had to jump on, and they said, you have to roll. Well, one guy ran it, and they sent him back. And they said, absolutely not. You got to go back. You have to roll. And so they sent him back. And then you had 2 chances to complete every obstacle. If you failed on your second try, you're done with the course. And you didn't get a medal. You walked off the course.
Oh, wow.
And so they did the same format where they sent 2 people at a time, and it made like an out and back. And so you ended with the warped wall.
Oh,
yeah, it was in an arena setting on the side of the ski resort, and it was it looked like it was a hockey rink in the wintertime. So, you know, it went down and back on that amount of space. But it also had a nice grandstand shaded seating area along the whole long side of it, which was really cool because a lot of people were really into watching that all day long and just making a big scene about it.
All day long it was packed.
Yep.
Give me a couple of the obstacles that were in the 100-meter.
Monkey bars, rings. There was a pole traverse, cargo net roll, the warp wall. Doug, what else was the low rig?
Two low walls, like a 4 or 5 foot wall and a 6 foot wall, and then a low rig, which was
really low.
It was very low. It was a horizontal pipe hanging on chains, and then transferred to a low ring, and then back onto another pipe. So it was just an awkward transition.
Touch the ground at all, it was a fail.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Did you have to touch the first ring on the holds, or?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, you couldn't move your feet. There was a mat underneath it, and you couldn't touch your feet to the mat until you engaged the obstacle. Like, you weren't allowed to touch the mat at all until you rang the bell.
Right. But Evan, are you asking on other obstacles if you had to hit the first element of the obstacle? Yeah. No, you were allowed to jump out and like skip to the second or third bar on the monkey bars or the rings.
But there's no way you could just jump the entire obstacle.
Yeah.
No.
Mm-mm.
It was, those rigs were all at least double the length. So that make them over 20 feet long. And also it was clearly stated in the rules somewhere that you had to engage the obstacle and could not just try to jump through it.
Gotcha.
It made me think that they had observed
balance too. The what was that?
Oh,
yeah. You can explain it better than me.
Beam. Sure. It was like a 4x4 on its edge, so it was like the pointy angled side of it was up, so to balance on it you're just on that little knife edge of it, kind of.
Oh, interesting.
And then the second half of the balance beam was just the flat side of it, and that tripped quite a few people up.
So if you overshot things, you had to redo it. So the balance knocked a lot of people out because you only got 2 shots.
Yeah.
That's cool. It sounds like you were starting to say they observed what happened at OCRWC and kind of adjusted.
Yes, that's what I was going to say.
Yeah. And I would be shocked if we have the same issues next year. I think you can fix it a whole bunch of different ways. You can add rules. You have to put weight on the first ring of the obstacle. You can even just move the bells up higher and like physically can't touch them, right? You can make the rigs longer. There's a whole bunch of different ways that we can work that and kind of prevent from what happened last year.
But I'll bet they'll state it in the rules though.
Yeah.
Well, and like I said, they had no problem calling people back. They didn't care who you were. They didn't care if you were one of the fastest people there. They would call everyone back. And then they have a very firm rule. Everyone races with a shirt. So a guy was down there trying to not have a shirt on, and the entire audience yelled, he has to have a shirt on. So they sent him back to the stands to get a shirt before they let him race.
Oh, that's interesting. Why is that to identify people, or they just they want more clothing? I don't know.
It's Europe. You would think they didn't care, but like every race you had to be wearing a shirt.
Yeah, I kind of feel like they want a little bit more professional looking, like the different countries, a lot of them had all matching jerseys, and it just felt super professional.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
I guess I figured if they have to wear a shirt, then they're going to go all out.
Yeah.
Interesting concept. All
right.
right.
I think they had like 5 judges there at all times. They had a person doing the timing, but then they had 2 judges, and then they had an announcer that was there at all times, and then a floating announcer that would come in and out.
Yeah.
So
one other thing they added different than the OCR Worlds version, at the top of the warped wall, they had a button, and they had the time, a timer right above the button. So it had a good ninja feel there.
Oh, that is cool. Yeah.
So even if you got up the warped wall, you had to hit the button to stop your time. And then changing lanes, they DNF'd, or they disqualified people for changing lanes too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. All right. So that's the 100-meter. Let's talk about the 4K a little bit. Look, was it a mount? I mean, obviously it was at the Alps. Was it all uphill? Kind
It
of
was
like
flat.
the 3K was
No, it
last
was
year, or
almost
was it
completely flat?
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I think it was about 1.8 miles, Doug. Is that about what you got?
Yeah.
And it was,
so more
I
of a
think that
3K.
my elevation on it was about, I don't even think I got 200 feet.
Oh, nice.
Okay. Yeah, so it was fast, but there was a swim.
Oh, interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So you had
a real swim.
And it was a real swim. It had rescue dogs.
So how were difficult were the obstacles? Give me some examples and what your thoughts of them were for the 4K.
Probably my grip was spent and we still had about 4 obstacles left. There was a salmon ladder. I had to lâcher to a ring. Doug didn't. He could reach. There was, I'm going to let you finish, Doug, because there was the twisty one that was like really heavy. There was the warp wall.
Yeah.
I mean, the rigs were just back to back to back. There was a carry, but it was like, that was super light.
Yeah. The bucket carry was like a half full bucket of water with a lid on it. And you could carry it however you wanted.
Yeah.
But I think there were about 25 obstacles in that distance. So you can imagine they were pretty close together, but they had a series. Yeah.
And there was a ring hopper. And there was, monkey bars was like the first obstacle, but you had to upswing to get to it. So you had to upswing on a rope to even get to the monkey bars. And that was the easiest one of them all. But and then I think we ran a decent distance and then it was just obstacle, 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 water, obstacle, 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 obstacle. And the rigs were, the shortest rig, it was longer. I felt like all the rigs were just longer.
Yeah. There were a couple that were probably 30 feet.
Longer and more technical or just longer?
Yeah, a lot more technical. So you weren't allowed to touch anything but the grip. And they had no issues telling you no. And we had to run journeyman because we're not European. So even journeyman had to follow all of the same rules.
Interesting.
Yeah, even like journeyman was competitive. So even journeyman had to follow all of the same rules as age group and elite. You couldn't, if you touched a strap, you lost your band.
And explain the bands. Did we touch on that? We haven't touched on that yet, have we?
So it's a new concept, and they give you 3 bands to start, and all of the grip obstacles, they gave you a list of obstacles that were 1 attempt only, and if you failed, you lost a band. There were obstacles that were mandatory, so any of the carries were mandatory. The warped wall was mandatory. So anything pretty much but the grip obstacles were mandatory completion. If you couldn't do it, then you just DNF'd. So it put a whole new spin on, you can't try that rig twice. You'll lose a band. And at the finish line, if you had all 3 bands, you went straight through the finish line and you were done. If you lost 1 band, you had to pick up a chain, and legit chain. Doug, how heavy was that guy's chain?
Close to 100 pounds. It was supposedly a Spartan obstacle that they use commonly in Europe.
This looked like, it was a chain, and you had to walk probably 2 to 3 tenths of a mile with it. If you lost 2 bands, you had to do 2 laps with that chain.
Yeah.
And then you could go through the finish line.
Yeah.
But if you lost,
the penalty.
That was the penalty. If you lost all 3 bands, then you DNF'd.
Gotcha. Interesting.
Right.
So, obviously, that helps with a lot better with flow through the course, right? Because then you have less people crowded at obstacles trying again. I'll say on some of the negative side, like some of my favorite moments from OCRWC are like watching people who've been failing for 20 times and then getting across. Like some of that, to me, that's like the most emotional moments of the whole event.
The mentality going in where you're like, ooh, my grip is starting to fatigue. I have a grip obstacle coming. I'll just try it and see where I'm at. You couldn't have that mentality because you couldn't come off. Like if you come off, you're done and you lose a band.
Right.
So there's much more of a mental component running in it.
So did you like that option, or do you like the way it kind of is in the U.S. where it's like you get as many retries as you want, but once you lose the band, it's over?
I think I'm split. I actually liked that option. And I think the main reason I like that option is it brings a whole new component to racing. It brings I have to know where my grip is. I have to be a little more dialed in with where I'm at physically. And if an obstacle is brand new to you, like all the obstacles for Doug and I were brand new when we ran the short course, it brings a level of experience to it because we had never touched that stuff before. And so it was like, oh, what is this? Like, what is this going to be like? And you kind of have to decode and figure out on the obstacle. But it also allows, if there's an obstacle you just can't do, or you're racing and you would get stuck there for a minute, but it's only one obstacle, you give up a band and say, I'm willing to carry that chain because I can stay ahead. I'm not going to get stuck here all day.
Gotcha.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, I think there's pros and cons to each, just kind of curious on your take on it. So on the salmon ladder obstacle, was it just a standard salmon ladder, or did they have a way to reset the bar?
You had to reset all of your own stuff.
Gotcha. Kind of like Gibbons. Where
even the pegboard, you had to get your pegs out. The ring hopper, you had to take your rings off and put them back. You had to reset your salmon ladder. The salmon ladder was uphill, but the bar spun. So it was a spinner bar. And then there was a bell, and you had to reach the bell.
Gotcha. I know.
So it's angled, like the salmon ladder wasn't perfectly vertical. It was like angled 45 degrees forward.
Yeah, kind of like the one they used to have at Tough Mudder in the festival area, if anyone remembers that.
Yeah. Yeah, it was pretty. And it was towards the end. It was in the gauntlet of obstacles.
So, Doug, I know you posted a pretty cool video of at least one of the obstacles where it was like a ring and you kind of traverse on the ring and it rotates the bar over. So tell us some of the more unique obstacles sounding like that, or whatever else you saw.
Yeah, the name of that, several rigs, they just had numbers, like a code number, and that was rig 600. And it was built by an Italian company called Atom Sport. And you see their banner on the side of it if you'd watch that video, but you'd traverse a pipe that was welded to a wheel on a bearing, and as you got to the wheel, you had to grab the rim of the wheel and just work your way across it. And as you did, it rotated the pipe up and over you and set it down to form the rest of the lane that you needed to traverse across to continue. And then there was a rope to make a transition onto a second one of those. And then you came off and hit the bell.
The hard part was turning the wheel. It was heavy.
Yeah. And it was, they built it with like a bungee to pull it back to the start position. So, even though you're using your body weight to pull that bar over and down, it had a lot of resistance to try and pull back against you. So like every time you swung and kind of went weightless to move your hand forward, it was like trying to move back. So that was a extremely ingenious obstacle.
Mm-hmm.
If anyone wants to see a video of it, June 23rd on the Mud Gear Battle Alliance page, you can scroll back and you'll see Doug messing around on it.
Yeah, I have a lot of obstacles that I videoed because I caught Doug on the long race at the end that I just haven't posted yet. So I haven't posted about the race yet. So I have a bunch of their obstacles.
Yeah.
That I videoed.
Yeah. Yeah, there were a ton of rigs. In the 15K, I counted, let me see if I wrote it down. 15 rigs, I believe.
Yeah.
For real.
Yeah.
So how long did the 15K take you? And then compare that to how long it takes you typically at like OCRWC.
It took me right at 3 hours.
Yeah.
But that also included the 3,000 feet of elevation.
Yeah.
Which put me down to walking for a good bit of the uphill parts.
Well, in the uphill parts, you can speak to, they had people in climbing gear.
Oh, yeah. So the uphill part was following kind of like logging roads, but they were pretty well maintained. I guess they probably used them in the wintertime for winter access on the ski slope, but they zigzagged through the woods and had some nice switchbacks, and it was scenic and didn't feel like a death hike, you know? So once you got to the top, like there was a long section of going uphill where there was just no obstacles. They probably couldn't even get them up there. But then coming down, it was pretty direct down, and it was in some areas that obviously weren't groomed for ski slope. And they actually had a mountain rescue group, like with climbing gear, like sitting by the trail, and like you're doing these little switchbacks, but like if you went off trail, like missed the switchback and went straight, I guess they were planning on having to do some rope type rescues to pull people back out the mountain. It made you take it very seriously.
Yeah.
I always wonder how much that stuff is imposed by the venue and how much is the race company.
Yeah.
Well, I can tell you, they made us get an EKG. We had to go get an EKG in order to even attend the race.
Really?
Yes.
We had to get doctor's permission.
Yeah, we had a full sports physical.
We had to go get a full physical. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, plus the EKG part.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I guess we shouldn't complain as much about some of the barriers to entry here in the U.S.
Right. That also made us take it seriously what we were getting into.
Yeah. I remember thinking, what are we doing?
Yeah.
Whoa. So, yeah. But
Evan, looking at some of the other rigs, there was a rig called the Shanghai rig. And this was only in the 15K. And it was one where there were two poles hanging with a hook on the top, and it was hooked through a metal ring that swings. And there was about 6 or 8 rings to traverse across. And so you had to get a hold of the pole, you know, like a stripper pole kind of thing. And while you're hanging on one, unhook the other pole and move it ahead and hook it into the next ring. And then move your body onto that, reach back, unhook the pole from behind you, move it forward and hook to the next ring, and, you know, keep swinging on through the rig. It took about 6 moves to get through to hit the bell. That about cost me a band. It was because the poles were probably 3-inch diameter wood. The top half was painted kind of rough, you know, like with city paint, but the bottom half was very smooth, and that was probably 7 miles into the race, maybe 8, and I'd already done a lot of stuff up till that point, but I have a lot of respect for that rig.
Yeah. That I've done similar obstacles at like ninja gyms, but that's either
it's either ninja.
It's either super easy based on like how well your shoes grip to it, or it's super hard. Yeah, it's usually one extreme or the other. Kind of how.
Yeah.
So
I found with it being a larger diameter, it really made it harder to grip, harder to get your feet on it. My shoes, you know, I have very grippy VJ shoes, but the bottom was just super smooth from everybody else using it, I guess.
Right. And sometimes on some of those things, actually, like a flatter sole bottom is actually better just because there's more surface area stuck to it.
Yeah, like a Ninja 2 versus a trail shoe.
Right. So, yeah, it really depends on – there's a lot of factors in there that go into it. But any kind of final thoughts on European championships? You know, did you find what you were looking for? Is it worth going to? You know, either one wants to share their thoughts there.
For me, it definitely – it was nice to know what you don't know, you know, because I said it's great to have a podium on a world level, but when you go to Europe, it's what don't I know? And I think we learned really fast that there is a big difference between the obstacles that you see in the US and the obstacles that they're given in Europe. I would do the race again. hands down. It was very well run. It was very professional, and it felt like the same OCR community. Everyone was very welcoming, and we got to talk to so many people from different countries. It was really unique. I just it was definitely different. I mean, it was very hard. I think that relating it to what everyone probably went through at Indian Mud Run this weekend is very similar. You know, because I kept saying, I don't know how many, even journeymen felt highly competitive. There was nobody running, drinking, it was just very professional of a course.
I'm gonna real quick. There's a great Daniel Leonard story from OCR World Championships last year where he's doing the 3K and he runs by. If you don't know, Daniel Leonard was my pacer at OCR Everest. Pacer some other ones. So he's running He's doing the 3K like mid race, right? Fast, furious. You can't stop. And as he's jogging by, he sees Lindsay Webster kind of watching on the sideline, and he's like, "Hey, you're Lindsay Webster, right?" And she's like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Cool." So he starts talking to her. And then like someone else comes over and starts talking to her. And then she realizes that he's on the wrong side of like the course side of the tape. And she's like, are you running? And he's like, yeah, it's fine. We'll talk a little bit longer and then I'll finish my race. And she was just like completely baffled that he traveled all that way and he's stopping mid race to say hi to her. Kind of funny.
Yeah, I think there were at European, I think there were 4 Americans total. So Doug and I were 2, and we brought a friend. So we were 3. Nice. And then there was actually a guy that came from the U.S. just because he wanted to see the obstacles. So I think he's a traditional, like, open wave runner. I think he does a lot of Spartans. Mm-hmm. I think he does more mountain courses, things like that. So
we were definitely the minority. The race technically wasn't open to us, but Lisa had contacted them a while back and asked, what would we be allowed to do if we could jump through all the hoops.
That makes sense. That makes sense too, the run in the open. I mean, you wouldn't want, if we had an American champions, you want a bunch of Europeans coming over and like winning. That's
exactly what they said. We can't.
It doesn't make any sense.
The podium.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. So
of course we were nervous to run in the journeyman wave, but I mean, there were some very good journeymen.
Yeah,
like
you could
very, very
just
good.
to look at them, you would not know the difference.
Know they were journeymen.
And honestly, I think a lot of them were probably excellent athletes that just hadn't run a race that qualified them because there was only a select number of races around Europe that would qualify into this at all.
Oh, interesting.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. So they definitely, you would have thought it was another age group running through.
One other thing I wanted to mention about just kind of overall thoughts, like I definitely enjoyed it and definitely set the bar another level higher for myself. And I came out of it super proud of myself because I kept all 3 bands on the short course and only lost 1 band on the long course, which just meant like I knew my training was dialed in. Like I've been working so hard on ninja stuff and like that is exactly what it took to get through everything.
Right.
But a huge shout out to volunteers at this thing. Like they were volunteers. They weren't paid. They wore the shirt and they took this stuff so seriously and they knew their obstacle backwards and forwards.
Yeah.
And they were on people like a real referee. There was no gray areas, no letting somebody slip through. I've never seen volunteers that were so on top of it.
And the rules were the rules.
Yeah. Big shout out to the race organizers that train them to be that way.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, it's great to have professional quality volunteers. And, I think if it's always hard because you're asking people to volunteer their time and then you're essentially telling them to be very strict and you might actually have to be mean to people.
Exactly.
I don't think we're inclined to do that, especially, just kind of common courtesy. So,
yeah. There was several obstacles where when I approached it, I said, do I need to touch the first thing? Can I jump out on it? Or, can I use my feet on this part? Those kind of questions. And they knew right away. And even with some language barrier, I kind of did sign language pointing to my feet or hands or whatever. And they understood what I was trying to get at.
Yeah.
So that was very helpful.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well,
And their low rigs were low.
yeah.
Their low rigs are very low to the ground.
Sounds like a really good event. All right, so we talked a little bit about European Championships. Let's talk about National Ninja League and their World Championships. So tell us, whoever wants to go, just tell us a little bit. One, how you qualified, and then two, where was the event, and then kind of the format.
Doug, that's you.
Okay, we had an area qualifier that was nearby in Pensacola, Florida, and
in a gym,
well.
Correct? Was that just like a
Yes,
local gym?
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah, that's Ninja Life in Pensacola. And then doing well there sent us to the regional in South Carolina, which I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head.
It was a cool gym.
But it was a full scale gym. Like it felt like all Ninja Warrior, like TV size stuff.
Yeah, it was huge.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and then doing well there sent us off to the finals.
Doug had an amazing regional run. Like, he's being humble. His regional run was absolutely amazing.
Thanks.
So, yeah.
Thanks. Yeah, I made it to second to the last obstacle.
Yeah. Yeah.
Something like that. But I had it dialed in pretty good at that one.
Well, he beat a lot of the top masters males that are even do very well on the TV show. So It was super impressive.
Nice.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
And then where was Worlds, and what kind of format was it?
Okay, so Worlds was Greenville, North Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. Because regionals was South Carolina. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay, and it was in a big arena, like a stadium. And the format, they'd kind of divided into quarters. So there was a full rig, full competition area in each of the quarters where the different age groups were kind of broken out so that there were runs going in all these parts all the time because there were so many competitors. It was so packed in there. I mean, you talk about a large scale event. It was almost annoying because they're just like to move around. They're just everywhere because everybody wanted to watch their people, and then they had other people in like a different division, so they had to get to another part of the arena, and just people migrating all over. But it also made it so it flowed well with so many people being competitors. They were able to accommodate everyone.
Yeah, I think there was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or 6 different courses set up, but they all were the same, just modified for the ages and levels.
Yeah.
But all the courses were identical.
Yeah. I thought that was a really neat idea. And it was it DGS Designs that they were using kind of the same company, and it's I believe a Ninja founded company.
It's a gymnastics company.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, okay. And and just by scaling the obstacle, it was just neat, like things were farther apart or smaller grips on it or something like that. But going from course to course, you can see the similarities. And then they also had the skills challenge running at the same time, which was kind of in the middle of everything. And that was something you could walk up and do at any point during the weekend. And that was
we were given times.
Okay.
Yeah, we had start times.
I'm sorry, but it was running continuously all weekend.
Yeah, it was running continuously all weekend because there was only 2 courses for skills. There was the younger kids course, so it was the same skills, but again, modified size-wise. So it was a course for the younger kids and then the adult course. So there was only two tiers of the skills testing.
Yeah, and that was also 4 components, right?
There was more than that. We had it was the saucer laché. It was the laché bars off of the quintuple steps. It was the devil steps. It was, what else was in there? I think there was only 4. I thought there was 5.
Yeah, I was thinking 4, but Yeah, it was the sort of thing where it was like, how many times can you go back and forth
Oh, there's cliffhanger
on the double
Mm-hmm.
stairs, within a minute or whatever the time limit was, or how many times back and forth on the monkey bars can you go? So
Mm-hmm.
definitely favorite people that can link cliches. That's a very special skill.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was well, and you did all of your skills testing like back to back. So you would go in and they gave us a time of stage 1 runs and then you had your skill testing time. And so you would have to go in for stage 1 and then you would have to either go back or you would have skills before. Some people had skills, they tried to break it up with where you run in stage 1 so that you weren't going back to back, because skills would, I mean, it's 5 as many times as you can, or 4 as many things as you can. So going on cliffhanger as many times down as back as you can, but then you'd have about a 30-second rest till you went to devil steps. How many times in a minute can you go up and down devil steps? As many times as you can. And then you had like 30 seconds to rest before laches. How many laches can you do in a minute? So your grip afterwards was pretty well toast. And it was, you had to kind of figure out, well, if I do 5 of these, it's going to toast my grip, so it's going to affect the next the next test.
Yeah.
So
interesting strategy there.
Mm-hmm.
So I know both of you compete in Ninja also, in addition to doing OCR. Any tips or recommendations for people that are maybe have done primarily OCR that might be looking to get into a little more of some of the Ninja scene? Or or maybe even some, here's why it's a good idea, or maybe not a good idea, etc. Challenges.
I mean, I think that Ninja is a natural progression if you're really enjoying your OCR, because your obstacle proficiency you're just building on that as you go into Ninja, and things like being good at a rope climb, I think, is kind of a fundamental grip and strength thing that, if you're a good rope climber, then you're going to do well in Ninja with some practice at a Ninja gym.
Right.
And
if you run an OCR course and your favorite part about it was the obstacles, was the monkey bars and stuff, then you need to go try Ninja. You need to just go do it and realize that things that you think there's no way somebody can do that, and then you watch them do it times. like, there's no way they're going to make that, and then it's like, oh, never mind, they're going to make that, and they're going to link it, and they're so it's just, even to go watch a Ninja course, just to be on site at NNL Worlds was just amazing. It was just amazing to see what athletes are capable of doing.
Yeah, and they did a really nice
8-year-olds.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I mean, kids like that were definitely doing better at some stuff than I would.
Gotcha. Yeah, and it makes sense. I've always said, if you want to be the best OCR racer you can be, you should train obstacles with ninjas and then train running with pure runners. And then,
exactly.
Once or twice a week, you kind of either put it out all together with another training group, or you are on your own, just to, it'll just pull you to a higher level, because you're trying to compete with people who are essentially better than you. Just like, just like an MMA person has a grappling coach and a striking coach, etc. Right? So.
Well, and I think that because of Ninja, you have to learn how to obstacle decode. And I think that has benefited us greatly going to European championships.
Right.
Is understanding the biomechanics behind it, because you really have to understand that in Ninja.
Yeah.
So it makes you kind of a more intelligent racer. I hate to say that, but a more intelligent racer. So
tactical. We'll use the term tactical.
Yeah, exactly. You don't have to. Maybe I can make that rig in less moves. I'm not going to use every single grip. So things like that.
Yeah.
And skip the hard pieces when you can swing past them.
Right.
Yeah.
So what else do you guys have on your schedule this year that we should look out for you two at, or individually?
Oh, man.
Yeah. I know. We actually said that We haven't even sat down and fully looked at a schedule.
Yeah. I've got. I know I've got Battle of the Lions is still coming up later this year.
2 of those.
And in fall there'll be
some savages.
More savage for sure, and probably another Spartan.
World's Toughest Mudder is right next to the house.
Yes, that's right. Finally, it's near us.
All right. I
know. We're going to get involved with that.
Yeah. So we always said that, I said, I'm not an endurance runner, but I'm like, well, how can you pass that up when how far is it from our house? Like less than an hour?
It's about an hour 15 maybe.
Why am I not just staying with you? That is it.
I know.
You could.
We have training in our house. You can just come train.
You can definitely warm up here.
I don't need to. You don't. The thing of the 24-hour race, you don't need to warm up. If you see someone warming up, it's called wasting energy, right?
Exactly.
Here's what I look like.
The course.
What I look like before a 12 and 24-hour race is I'm laying in my tent, not moving.
Yeah.
And no jogging, no walking. Yeah.
Look, we can bring you the camper with AC.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Good stuff. Okay.
Yeah.
Real quick, want to get going soon because it's past my bedtime and I'm tired and we're all old now.
Yeah.
So I'm not a master's yet, but we've got about 30 days and I will be. So that's exciting. Watch out, though.
Yeah.
You're still baby.
I never get a break. I never get a break.
You just get people keep aging into your age bracket there.
I know. I just want to have my space.
People want grandmasters. That's what happens.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah, when are they going to create a grandmasters in OCR?
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, well, actually, Rugged Maniac actually does. They call it masters, but it's grandmasters.
Oh, wow.
Rugged Maniac is their older age group is 50 plus.
Oh wow! I did not know that.
Yeah. So if you want to go, but I want to say they only do
OCR.
I want to say they only do
groups are messed up too.
So I'm sorry. I want to say Rugged Maniac only does 1 deep though for Grandmaster. So I think you got to win it.
Well, all or nothing.
Sure.
But Doug, I think you would win all of them.
Thanks. Yeah, I would.
Yeah.
I would definitely try my best to win.
Yeah.
That's the case. So yeah, I did a local event. It's called the Filthy Monkey. So I actually did the Frozen Monkey, which is their wintertime version. So when I did the Frozen Monkey, it was a month after World's Toughest, and I hadn't run a single step since World's Toughest. And I showed up to the Frozen Monkey back in December, and there was like an entire high school sports team there.
Yes.
And it was literally like 100 meters out and back through a field, and then like 100 meters of all obstacles, right? Yes. And these young kids were all fast twitch muscle, and I was running so hard trying to beat them. And about halfway through the obstacle gauntlet, I finally gapped the one that was still with me, and I put like probably 30 seconds on him in 40 feet or something ridiculous, right? Because he basically blew up at that point. But anyway, so I signed up for the Filthy Monkey, and my teammate Thomas Plush decided he was going to come down. It was the week after 12-hour toughest and a week before OCR Everest, so sandwiched between 2 major endurance efforts. And this one had a little bit longer of a run, maybe I don't know, maybe half mile. So it spaced it out a little bit further. And then you went into the obstacle gauntlet, and the obstacle gauntlet is like in this fenced-in area. You know, standard obstacles. It's got a monkey bars. It's got a rope climb. It's got a couple walls. It's got low crawl. It's got a A-frame cargo net. It's got a traverse wall. It's got tires you run through, tires you go underneath. For the summer version, they put a slip and slide out, so you're supposed to kind of slide across. The final obstacle is a zigzag balance beam over water with water falling down from up top. So it kind of adds some distraction. So it was a fun local event. Yeah, it was a fun local event.
Yeah, that's awesome.
You know, it was super. Entry was super cheap. So and it was obviously it's super close to me. Like I drive essentially that distance to work every day. So that was a nice touch. But yeah, so Thomas Plush shows up. I'm like, thanks, dude. So the two of us take off. I'm trailing behind him, and I'm like, I'll just stay close to him, and hopefully he'll mess up, and then I can pass him. And he did not mess up, unfortunately. But
Oh, no.
I did make him run hard enough that we crossed the finish line and he threw up his beet juice.
Nice.
Yes.
So
That's awesome.
you know, I was probably 15, maybe 20 seconds behind. I think I was about 20 seconds behind him. And here's the other funny part. So it was advertised as a, I can't remember what distance, 3K, whatever it was advertised as. So it was shorter than advertised, which is not uncommon in OCR, right? That happens literally all the time. And sometimes it's longer.
Sometimes it's longer.
When the timing company set up the timing parameters, they set like a lower limit and an upper limit, or actually they just set a lower limit, right? So in case someone like triggers the timing mat accidentally, so you can't have like a time of like 30 seconds, right? Yeah, so I think they set the lower limit at like 6 minutes or something. So me and Tom actually ran below the planned lower limit because the course was as long as it should be. So we crossed the finish line, and Tom's like, "Yeah, we're not listed in the results." I was like, "Well, why not?" He's like, "Well, we ran too fast." And I was like, "No, seriously, dude. Like, why aren't we in the results?" And he's like, "No, seriously, we ran too fast." He's like,
"See, you should have gone slower."
He explains the lower parameter thing, and I was like, "Oh." So we got a great picture of the two of us right after crossing the finish line are doubled over at like both gasping for air, right? Because it was 5 minutes and about 15 seconds, plus or minus 15 seconds of like all out effort. Yeah. And I just think it's funny, like, oh, here's this local OCR, and we got two pros here, and the two of us look terrible, right? Like doubled over, gasping for air,
throwing up.
Yeah, one's throwing up, and it's throwing up red, right? Because the beet juice, so it looks like God. But it was just it's just amazing. Rachel Ann, who works for OCR World Championships, when people always complain that the race is too easy, she always goes, "Did you win?" And they're like, "No." And she's like, "Well, you should have ran harder then. It wouldn't have been so easy."
That's correct.
To me, that was like the perfect example of that, where nothing was technically difficult, but the two of us were just running as hard as we possibly could.
Right. That's awesome. Well, we've done a couple terrain races, and because you bring your friends, like they actually, we've had to run. I was like they actually got hard because you actually run really fast to try to keep up, because the competitiveness, even though it's a non-competitive race, it's highly competitive because we're racing each other.
Yeah. Speaking of which, how's terrain doing? Do they still have some of the old obstacles, like the monkey ball grips? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I don't remember anything being challenging.
Yeah, the rigs had rings to horizontal pipes. They were significant obstacles, actually.
Yeah,
not a whole bunch of obstacles, but just several that were like decent rigs.
The Tarzan ropes were surprisingly technical.
Yeah,
because they're far apart, so you have to build swing while you're on it.
And huge attendance at the what was it, Pensacola?
Pensacola.
Holy cow! There must have been 4,000 people there.
Really?
Yeah. The one in New Orleans was dead. It was really quiet. It was it was horrible too. They made us just run all the way out, and then we came back and did some obstacles. But there was alligators in the water, so that was pretty cool. Like real alligators. So that was pretty neat. That made its own obstacle.
Made it interesting.
If some of our listeners you haven't been around for a while, so Terrain Race used to do prize money, used to do competitive heats. They sold it to a different company. The new company's marketing scheme is essentially the race is free, but then they hit you with an insurance fee. They hit you with a parking fee, so you end up paying. What do you pay? $30 or something?
Yeah.
But
the Pensacola race we actually had to pay for. It's only free now up until a certain point, and then it's not free. But I remember the race that we paid for almost equaled the same amount as the free race.
Yeah. So they hit you with all these like hidden fees, but they get people in the door, and then hopefully they buy some merchandise and some other stuff. So, and I'm sure it boosts their numbers considerably. So, I wonder what that
good for OCR, because it's people that never run OCR, but they're like, oh, it's free, let's go.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, I mean, theoretically, that could replace the Warrior Dash, and some of those other brands that have gone under, those kind of beginner brands. So, yeah, interesting. Yeah. You don't hear much about terrain race. I think most of the people I And the crowds we run in are not, I no longer go to them. So
No, they were so much. It was so much fun though. But like I said, we brought our own competition.
Yeah.
So
it happened to be free weekends, and honestly, it's one of the only OCRs that's in our region. Mm-hmm. So it's like, besides, if you have a free weekend, you might as well go.
Yeah, might as well just drive an hour and have a fun race and bring a friend and actually race.
Yeah. So for those of you who are looking to get some of your friends into OCR, that might be a good option, mm-hmm. and then you can use that as the free sample there, and then they get hooked.
Yeah, and then exactly.
All of a sudden you're
fun.
You're flying to Europe.
They really are fun. The obstacles are the obstacles are hard enough to be fun, if that makes sense.
Yes,
mm-hmm.
It makes sense to me.
Yeah. So. Yeah.
All right. Well, we're gonna start wrapping things up. I normally do tell us one thing people would be surprised to know about you, but I think I've used. Do you have a good one that we haven't used yet?
I mean, I'm out.
I mean, yours are
probably,
pretty excellent.
Yeah.
Well, Doug, you go since you're on.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a man of mystery and have a lot of things that people don't know about me. So
it's actually true.
You have to be careful here, and there's some stuff I'm probably not going to share.
Yeah. No. Stuff I don't even know, and I don't want to.
Keep it PG here. Let's keep it PG.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'll keep it very G-rated, but just kind of outside of my OCR world, I've been very involved in church, and I've been a church musician for a number of years playing guitar. And a lot of people don't know that. Like they think that I'm just all about athletics and that's all I do. But I do have my fine arts side.
His mom was a music teacher, a piano teacher.
I mean, I learned you have music. I've learned you have musical skill, and you're involved in church. So that's a double interesting one. So
yeah.
I have another one about Doug.
Oh, God.
Go for it, share it.
That Doug became a grandpa this year.
Oh,
Grandpa Doug, amazing! My new favorite fun fact.
Dang it! You really upstaged me on that one.
Not many people know about that. He keeps that hidden too.
Old Grandpa Doug.
Or baby Sophia.
Still winning races. Amazing.
Yeah, and I mean she's 5 months old now, and my son already knows that she's going to start rock climbing within the next maybe 6 or 9 months.
Yeah.
So gonna start getting into toddler climbing.
Nice.
Poor kid, she doesn't really have a choice.
Yeah. So my son actually got me into rock climbing when he was about 14 or 15 years old, and he's 22 now. So I haven't been climbing all my life, and I said, well, we're gonna keep it in the family.
Yeah.
So one, I'm glad. Well, I'm not glad. I'm upset I didn't know that before we ordered Mudgear Battle Line Pro Team jerseys. If you haven't seen them, you can check them out. They're on all of our athletes. And then also there's a gold version that's up for sale publicly now. So if anyone wants a Mudgear or a Battle of Lines Mudgear shirt, it's on Legendborn. So you can check that out. But ours are the black and gold. The ones on sale publicly are the gold and black. So the first color being the primary color. So one, I would have made your shirt, Grandpa Doug, without telling you. But I didn't have time to do that. So no worries on that. Connecting to yours, I'm not a grandpa.
No,
but I was an altar boy growing up. So I used to you put on the robes and you hold candles and kind of interesting related to my current endurance thing. So there's a thing at church during Holy Week where they have two altar boys guard essentially the epitaphium. It's like it's essentially a piece of cloth that has Jesus on it. So it's supposed to represent the angels or the guards guarding the tomb of Jesus. So they have two altar boys stand there, and the service is very long. So they normally change people out about every 15 minutes. So me and one of the guys who was my pacers from the first OCR America, Sty, who he was my best man at my wedding. I'm the best man at his wedding coming up. So we showed up to church that day, and we're like, we're going to go out there. Don't change us out. And they're like, Are you sure? Like, it's a really long time, and like people pass out a lot when they do this. And we're like,
Oh, wow.
no, no, we're good. So that was like, it was like an endurance standing contest where essentially the two of us just stood there. I think it was for like an hour and a half.
Man.
Without moving the rule is you're not allowed to move your feet, so you can't adjust, you can't fidget, but you're standing there holding like a 5-foot candle, so that's resting on the floor. But yeah, that was my first kind of like, I have a bad idea, let's do this and make it slightly painful challenge.
Your first endurance event.
Yeah, so that goes back to we had to be
endurance.
I'm guessing early high school, 9th or 10th grade, I'm guessing. So, but yeah, kind of interesting story there. Speaking of endurance, if you haven't seen the OCR Everest documentary shot by Bobby Ross, it is now up on YouTube. Go subscribe to Strength and Speed YouTube. We are going to make kind of a push in the next year or two to kind of really produce some nice YouTube content. So we need subscribers to make that important and to show people that they're actually watching and they care, so we can continue to produce content. If not, then I will essentially give up after a couple of years of effort on YouTube. So go and head over and subscribe to Strength and Speed. We've also launched a Patreon channel. Again, the idea is I can't just take Bobby away from his actual job and have him film awesome stuff. So at some point, we need to fund some of our stupid adventures. So I'm gonna drop a Patreon link down below, but there's some options to help kind of fund that. So the Patreon will have benefits that one, reflect on the podcast, and two, reflect on some free stuff that I will physically send you, so you'll actually get something in return. But then the funding of the Patreon essentially will all go to the film production of stuff we're working on. We've also got the Ultra OCR Man documentary coming up, but first got to go to film festivals first before we can share that publicly. That one's 24 minutes. The OCR Everest one is 10 minutes. It's awesome. Bobby did a great job, even though I tortured him all night, making him pace me. I felt so bad. I tortured that pacing crew. That was a bad one. So go check out the OCR Everest documentary on YouTube, please. And then it's also up on Facebook. I encourage you to watch the one on YouTube and then share the one on Facebook, because most people are too lazy to click on the YouTube link. So the one that's on my Strength and Speed Facebook page, share that one around, because that one kind of it gets a lot of views on that. So right. Cool. Especially any groups that I'm not in, or friends you have that would think it would be interesting, feel free to send it to them. We got articles coming out on OCR Buddy and the OCR Report. The OCR Buddy one talks about some of the equipment I used at OCR Everest. You can check that one out. There's the one on the OCR Report, I think, has a recap. And then also check the Strength and Speed website. We're doing a virtual OCR Everest like mini competition. So it's 1/10 the height of Everest, so 2,900 feet. 2,903 feet plus, I think, 28 obstacles, kind of done at your own pace. So essentially you need to donate $50 to the fundraiser. You get entered in, and then between now and July 22nd, whoever does the fastest time will get some prizes. So I have prizes that we're not giving away that I need to get rid of. So $100. So first and second place, male and female, will get a $100 Aurora gift card to buy whatever you want. You get a $5 Mud Gear gift card. You get some Squirrel's nut butter samples. You get a OCR Everest belt buckle. You get a gold or silver, depending on what place you come in, OCR Everest belt buckle. And then if you go and you compete, but you don't actually win that first or second prize, again, you'll get a $5 Mud Gear gift card. You get Squirrel's nut butter, and you'll get a belt buckle, as long as you're one of the first, I think, 30 people to send in your results. So I need to get rid of this stuff. So please sign up. And again, the $50 donation all goes to charity. Like, I don't take a cut of that. And I also need to get rid of these. I need to get rid of these belt buckles. If you've donated $50 before, you don't need to donate $50 again. You're already entered. You just need to send in your results. So
you just need to go climb.
Yeah, you need to go climb. So all the details are on the teamstrengthspeed.com website. You can find it under the OCR Everest charity drop-down tab under Ultra OCR. It's actually kind of hard to find. I'll just drop the link down below. You'll find it. It'll be great. You'll win $100. Like, I put out like a virtual one before, and we had like one person compete. And so I still have all these prizes left over. So we got to get rid of them. And you want Aurora heated apparel because it's awesome. So, and then on top of that, one of the people who sends in the results will get a free pair of UFO's sandals. So I will pick a name out of a hat.
It's my favorite.
Yes, they're best.
Mm-hmm.
And even if you came in dead last, as long as you send in results, then you're entered into the drawing. So we'll pick someone from that for UFOs. And then you can get some free sandals or slides, your choice of style and size. That's what UFOs told me. So good deal there. I've already plugged On Endurance, the book. Please pick that up. People have been reading voraciously this month, which I'm super excited with. I think I've sold more books this month than pretty much any other month that I'm aware of, besides like when I launch a new book. So appreciate all that. Most people are ordering through Amazon. We have digital and hard copy off of Amazon. And then my biography is the only one on audiobook. You can check that out too on Audible. Anything else before we go? Doug, Lisa?
No, that's about it.
That's about everything I can think of.
Sounds good. I've missed both of you. I feel like especially Lisa. Not that I don't miss you, Doug. But I go from with like Lisa and Ashley. We're both on the team for so long, and then you when you're off the team, I don't. I typically don't message a lot of people because I'm just like so business focused. So I've missed interacting with you and seeing your updates.
I know the craziness.
Yeah. But I was jealous of your trip to Europe because you look like you went some awesome places. So real quick,
we did some awesome stuff.
Give me a quick rundown of where you went.
We flew into Belgium, but then we primarily stayed in Italy. We went to Rome before we did the race. So we were in Europe for a week before we raced. And then we went and raced. And then from there, we went to Calamus, which is one of the Greek islands, and did a lot of rock climbing and caving and stuff, and played into the sea, which is absolutely beautiful. And then from there, we went to England, spent a couple of days in Paris, and then came home.
Ah, jealous.
Yeah, so we were there for about 2.5 weeks, 16 days.
So good.
All
right, we're going to let you go. Appreciate it. Sounds like a great trip. Take me with you next time.
Absolutely. Next
Come
year,
do the championship.
our European Championships is in, where is it? Next, Hungary. It's in Budapest.
Hungary.
I've never been to Hungary.
I know. Yep. I'm excited. Just got to convince Doug.
Mm-hmm.
All right. We'll catch both of you later. Have a good night.
All right. Thank you, Evan.